The fourth episode of the fantasy series on Amazon Prime Video from the previous week continues with Queen Regent Miriel making the decision to comply with Galadriel's plea for assistance as the Southlands come under siege from evil powers. This happened when Miriel expressed her concerns for the kingdom, which were inspired by ominous visions she had seen in a Palantir, a seeing stone. Halbrand, who appeared to be the Southland's heir apparent, was expected to travel to Middle-earth with them. Adar, the evil leader of the orcs, was first revealed to us in the Southlands, but is he really the returned Sauron? Here is what happened in the latest episode of The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. Before I start, please subscribe my channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Major spoilers ahead if you have not watched episode 5 yet. While observing the surroundings close to Rhovanion, Nori Brandyfoot teaches the stranger words and concepts related to the Harfoot culture, including the different dangers they encounter. The stranger worries that he is a danger in himself. Soon after, the two reunite with the Harfoot caravan, which is being pulled by the Brandyfoots and Poppy Proudfellow. As they continue their arduous trek, they sing. As they proceed past the Grey Marshes, Troutbend, and onto the Braids, a mountain range, Poppy sings This Wandering Day. One night, Nori observes the stranger gazing up at the stars. A pale figure identified as the dweller Bridie Sisson, with prominent blue eyes and donning a white robe and hood, surveys the crater where the stranger first crashed in Rhovanion. She is flanked by two other enigmatic figures, the nomad Edithpoor and the ascetic Kalikapi. Who are they and why are they looking for the stranger? The dark Elfadar warns an orc in the Southlands that the portion of him that senses the sun will soon disappear and to call in the legions. Has he begun to turn into an orc? Bronwyn and Arondir address the crowd assembled at the Watchtower and provide them with Adar's ultimatum. Bronwyn appeals to everyone in the room to join her in resisting the advancing evil forces. Many of them quickly offer to fight the orcs. Waldreg counters that they won't get it through this and should join him to oath allegiance to Adar. Eventually, a large number of people go with Waldreg, but Theo decides not to join them. Elendil and Isildur are in Numenor getting the ships ready to sail for Middle-earth. Isildur requests to be picked from among the volunteers to travel because he was rejected, but Elendil points out that he is not a member of the Sea Guard, the Queen's Guard, or any other groups, and has not demonstrated enough dedication to be chosen to go. Elendil's daughter Irene, who opposes the voyage along with others, tries to meet with Chancel of Pharazôn inside the palace. Irene encourages Pharazôn's son Kemen to voice his opposition to the mission more forcefully. Guards kidnap Halbrand from the blacksmith's shop and bring him to Queen Regent Miriel and Galadriel, where he gives them advice on where the enemy will move next. Galadriel was right that Halbrand is less eager to go back to Middle-earth than she was, but the elf says he will still want to fight. Halbrand declines to attend despite Galadriel's announcement that 500 people and 5 ships will travel to the Southlands to aid his people. The man does not want to take on his obligations. Malva informs Sadok Burrows that some members of the Harfoot caravan are worried that the Brandyfoots are slowing them down in a dreadful barren forest in Middle-earth. Nori initially spots their footprints, and shortly the gang is attacked by enormous wolves. The stranger, though, throws one away and uses magic strike on the floor to drive them away before they can attack Nori. The stranger's arm bears visible scars from the incident. Galadriel and Elendil in Numenor observe the volunteers training from the outside, with Elendil urging that Galadriel instruct them. Elendil says that whoever succeeds will be promoted to lieutenant, as Galadriel invites them to try to strike her flesh. Halbrand observes amused as both of Isildur's friends make an attempt. Soon, as Isildur draws closer to observe, a large group makes an attempt to engage Galadriel in fight. Valandil, an acquaintance of Isildur, succeeds and rises to the rank of lieutenant. Kemen, who has been observing the Chancellor's distaste for following orders from an elf, goes to his father Pharazôn in the meantime and inquires about moving against the mission. When this is over, according to Pharazôn, it will be the elves who obey the men of Numenor. Pharazôn anticipates having a lot of trade and land as a result of their preparations once Halbrand is crowned king of the Southlands. Pharazôn is considering the long term for Numenor, but we believe he is someone to be cautious of. Tar Palantir, the father of Queen Regent Miriel, encourages her not to go to Middle-earth, and warns her that darkness awaits her there during their conversation about the arrangements for the trip in the royal tower. The stranger was holding his hand in a pool of water that was freezing around his arm when Nori returned to the jungle. When Nori touches him, her hand and arm both start to get frozen. The stranger begins to chant, and as he does so, Nori is flung away by an ethereal force. When the stranger approaches Nori, she flees in terror. Around him, trees start to sway. Prince Durin IV has dinner with Elrond, Lord Celebrimbor, and High King Gil-galad in the Elf Kingdom of Lindon. Gil-galad apologizes and offers the table to the prince after Durin points out that the material the table is made of is precious to his people. Elrond questions Gil-galad later about the true reason for his travel to the dwarf city of Khazad-dûm. The two remember a song about how an elf in a Balrog of Morgoth fought over a tree, which was then struck by lightning, and how the tree's roots fed an ore into the mountain's roots, Mithril. This is how the sacred jewels of the Silmaril were created. Elrond asserts that he cannot divulge the dwarves' secrets as he realizes what the High King now desires, but Gil-galad soon confides that the Eldar's light is waning and that the elves may soon be wiped out in Middle-earth as their own trees begin to rot, corrupt, and die. Elrond is reluctant to violate his promise, but Gil-galad insists that if the elves of Middle-earth perish, other peoples will also be lost to the forces of darkness. When Isildur approaches Untamo, he is having a conversation with his fiancée at a pub in Numenor. Isildur apologizes and requests to go to Middle-earth with them. After a brief beating, Valandil declines Isildur's offer of free blows to his body and says he lacks the devotion and capacity to make sacrifices. Kemen goes aboard one of the ships that is about to leave and makes an effort to ignite a fire by spilling alcohol inside. Kemen, though, overhears that Isildur has hidden himself aboard. Isildur struggles with Kemen after realizing what he is doing, but Kemen drops his lantern, sparking a fire. Kemen is hit in the head while attempting to flee and falls. Isildur saves Kemen and tells a lie on his behalf, and Kemen tells Elendil that Isildur is the one who saved his life. The fire burns down two of the ships. Galadriel, who is observing the catastrophe from the palace, tries to convince Queen Regent Miriel that this is an attempt to deter her from her purpose. Then Pharazôn tries to persuade Miriel to back out of the expedition. The Queen Regent instructs Galadriel to summon Halbrand to their deliberations, and Elendil requests instructions on him. The following morning, the council will meet to debate. Lord Celebrimbor apologizes to Elrond and Lindon for keeping Gil-galad's goals a secret. Once more, Elrond is urged to turn on Durin in order to get Mithril in order to save the elves and enshroud them in the light of the Valar. Celebrimbor remembers how Elrond's mother tried to dissuade Elrond's father from leaving to finish his own mission, but he was the only one to succeed, noting that was Elrond's situation now his own. Galadriel approaches Halbrand in Numenor and invites him to the meeting with Miriel. Halbrand mentions that he once engaged in combat alongside the opposition and says that Numenor and she would desert him if the truth about his past came to light. Halbrand claims he made a vow never to go back to Middle-earth and queries Galadriel as to why she keeps battling. Galadriel replies that she can't stop because her brother was killed by Sauron's minions. Halbrand apologizes to Galadriel and expresses regret. Galadriel advises him to go back to Middle-earth and battle in order to discover his own sense of serenity. In the meantime, Waldreg and his supporters make their way to Adar and his orcs camped to oath fealty. Adar then approaches Waldreg and throws him to the ground after Waldreg swears unwavering duty and loyalty to Sauron, whom he believes Adar to be, although the Dark Elf does not confirm this. Theo's friend Rowan is subsequently killed per Adar's request so that they can swear an oath in blood and bind Theo to Adar. For Rowan, things don't seem promising. When Theo asks Arondir why he decided to stay with the mortals, the elf replies that it was because some of the humans chose to stay. Arondir teaches Theo how to shoot an arrow at the watchtower. Theo then decides to present the hilt to Arondir. Arondir admits that he had seen it previously and discovers a statue of it opening a person in the watchtower wall. Later, Arondir tells Bronwyn that it is essential to governing the Southland's populace. Bronwyn says they still have days or hours before the enemy shows up. Bronwyn considers handing herself into Adar, but Arondir is determined to survive the coming battle. Bronwyn is persuaded that this is how her people will continue to thrive, despite Arondir's efforts to persuade her otherwise. Bronwyn is certain that the watchtower will be overrun by the enemy, despite Arondir's best efforts to prevent Adar from gaining the weapon. Where did the fighting spirit go? Bronwyn earlier Adar's army is in the process of marching toward the watchtower in large formation. The situation for the local population is not favorable, and we don't think backup will show up soon. The elves in Linden transport the table to Khazad-dûm. Elrond realizes with amusement that Durin was lying about the table, and the two laugh. Then Elrond shares what is on his mind and says he was requested to go to Durin because the elves needed Mithril. Elrond acknowledges that without the ore, they will either have to leave Middle-earth or perish there. Durin is aware that he holds the key to the future of the entire elf race. Durin, who finds the power play amusing, requests that Elrond keep stating this fact. Durin replies that he will assist but adds that his father, King Durin III, must be convinced first. One can observe High King Gil-galad watching the couple. When Halbrand is called, he leaves his family jewelry on the table in the blacksmith's shop on Numenor before going back and reclaiming it. Halbrand joins the expedition, dons his armor, and marches beside Elendil and Queen Regent Miriel. Irene, who is in anguish, observes Isildur and his companions leaving Numenor and heading for the ships. To the pleasure of his son's companions, Elendil orders Isildur to report to the horse master on one of the ships and sweep the stables. As an armored Galadriel approaches Halbrand and approaches the deck, the troops stand to attention as the two lock arms. The ship then departs in manner for Middle-earth after Elendil gives the order to do so.